Christianity was introduced to us as Africans, and we had things that we were believing in before Christianity came, does it make us less of Africans if we are not adapting African spirituality? What is African spirituality, and can I be a Christian and be proud African, and can the two even have a relationship whatsoever? So we're gonna hear what the people have to say about African spirituality versus Christianity and how that is contributing towards you being a proud African today, right? Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Perseverance Maremeni, also known as Madam Speaker, also known as the CEO of Self Love. If you're joining in for the first time, welcome to the family. Please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. And if you're returning, thank you so much for the continuous love and support. If you're returning and you have not yet subscribed, my friend, hit that subscribe button already. Obviously you like it here, you might as well just join the family. And I would like to send a special shout out to those who are signing up for membership, because you really are contributing towards the growth of this channel. More than anything, you are also contributing towards changing lives, because a portion of the subscription money goes to things like second annual women's conference, being able to buy tickets for those who are less fortunate but really need to have that encounter with a group of ladies sitting around. You really are changing people's lives, and a big shout out to you. Thank you so much for that. Happy Africa Day. Happy Africa Day to all my fellow Africans. Today I'm even rocking up in this Ndebele inspired bomber jacket of mine. Because I'm unable to speak the language, I at least get to wear this, you know. The fact that I'm unable to speak the Ndebele language, out of 11 official languages in South Africa, Ndebele is one of the 2 languages that I can't speak. The other one is Afrikaans. So at least I'm representing Ndebele by wearing and the print, you know. So a big shout out to you. Today we are on African spirituality versus Christianity, because we are in Africa and we're not going to shy away from the fact that Christianity was introduced to us by our slaves masters back in the days when we were colonized. But we have evolved, you know, and we have done away with the colonialism thing, and now we are here as Africans. And I want us to talk about the topic of whether we can still embrace being an African, proudly African, when we have adapted Christianity. Because I, for one, am a Christian. Because I grew up in a Christian home, all I know is how to be a Christian and Christian ways of doing things. But I don't want to lie to you. At some point, I was like this, man. I was wearing clappies. But right now, I feel like I'm so open-minded. I think year before last, 2021, I was invited to Dineo Ranaka's homecoming. She was graduating to become a traditional healer, and I must be honest with you, everything that I saw there was new to me. But I went there with an open mind, because I really was interested in knowing a little bit about African spiritualism. Some of the things were scary for me, but some of the things I really enjoyed, like the singing, meaning that let it be well and let it just shine and be bright and just be well. You get what I'm saying? And I believe that even in Christianity, we're all about that. And I'm not even going to try and classify what I experienced there, but that experience that I had when I went to Dineo Ranaka's homecoming actually helped me a lot. Because when I had my first camp, you know, Loving Yourself Back to Life camp, because you know I'm all about the women and the well-being of women. When I had the first camp, there was a lot of people there, because it's not limited to Christians only, because I'm not doing this for just Christians, I'm doing this for women in general. So when we did this little activity there, you know, obviously people believe in different things. Even when we were sitting around the fire and introducing ourselves, people did say that some believing in African spiritualism, some are believing in Christianity, some don't even believe in any of these things. But we are here for our well-being, our mental well-being. So when we did the whole river rafting activity, because the water, some people believe that in the water there is power, you know. So after the activity, there were people who were really starting to burp and have those I don't know what to call them. I don't want to classify them, because like I said, I don't know much about African spiritualism. But because I was open-minded and before I had encounters, it was easy for me to not handle the situation, because I knew nothing about it. But I was able to be there and support and just be open-minded, because remember, these people are gathered here in my name, and when they're coming out of the water and they're having their spiritual encounters with their ancestors or whatever, they're burping and doing this and that, if I was still wearing the klappies that I was wearing, it was going to be very difficult for me to deal with people who have different beliefs than mine. But in me understanding that my calling is not even about religion, but it's for women, so meaning that all women of all beliefs, when they come, I must not discriminate, so I'm open-minded. I'm really open-minded, and I'm still not shaken in my belief as a Christian, but I want to hear what people have to say about how far we've come as African and what their take is on African spiritualism versus Christianity, how far we have come. Is us being Christians really embracing our Africanness, or is it really saying that we are not African enough if we are Christian? Because Christianity was introduced to us as Africans and we had things that we were believing in before Christianity came. Does it make us less of Africans if we are not adapting African spirituality? What is African spirituality and where do they clash with Christians? Can I be a Christian and be proud African, and can the two even have a relationship whatsoever? So we're gonna hear what the people have to say about African spirituality versus Christianity and how that is contributing towards you being a proud African today, right? Cool. So let's go live. And talk to me, Khadi.
Okay, just a bit of context. I grew up as a Christian child, but as I grew older, I started questioning what really is the truth, because I struggled with the colonizers giving us a book that gives us life in abundance and life after death, yet they hate us in the present. So I was just so confused to say, how do you want life for me in abundance and life after death when you hate me today?
Yeah.
And then I started reading the context where we are told to turn the other cheek and we are slaves. How am I born of the Most High and made of the image of God and still be called a slave? So I feel like it was the indoctrination that happened through the Bible. So they had to bring something to control us so that we don't retaliate and we conform to their mandate. So I sort of went back and I thought to myself, okay, now I really need to look at African spirituality and see if what I was told as a Christian about African spirituality, if that is true. Very fortunately, a friend of mine was a Sangoma and she was going through the initiation and stuff like that. And then I would be interested and I would ask, do you guys pray to your ancestors? They say, no, we don't pray to the ancestors. We acknowledge the existence of the people of the past.
Okay.
And we're saying, because of them, they have, my existence is possible because of them. And yes, through God, that is true, but also we're acknowledging them. And I looked at how the men in the Bible are also ancestors.
Sure.
So is it wrong that because we are black, that we cannot acknowledge our ancestors, and that is an abomination to Christ because we are black, but we easily refer to a Jacob, to a Job, to a Samuel, to a David,
to an Abraham. So, we are all descendants of Abraham.
Do you get?
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself that, are we not struggling today as a black nation because we have left our ways, believing that our ways and the ways of our ancestors are no good? Are we suffering because of that? Because we can't seem to have an awakening as a black people to hold hands and to build a better Africa. Could it be because we're not following the right ways, the ways of our ancestors, where we were kings instead of slaves? Because I feel like, no, this business was a colonizer's way of getting us to be oppressed and to live under oppression and submission.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you guys? I like this topic a lot. I feel like we need to have this conversation, especially as African children,
Sure.
right? I am a Muslim, right? I was raised in an Islamic home. So for me, being a Muslim, it does not take away from me being an African child and practicing my African culture.
Sure.
You know, with that being said, I feel like there's a lot of misconception when it comes to religion and culture, right? We mix the two things, and not mix. We distinguish between the two things, and we say, yeah, religion is causing separation between, right? Forgetting that also culture is doing the same thing. And as African, I feel like we do not want to tackle the problems that also African culture has played a role in separating us also. The tribalism, the laws that they make, right? There's a certain law. I will give you an example. And I don't know if meaning I don't know if the Zulus and the Ndebeles and the Xhosas have the same rule, right? But as Mswati, kuthiwa umuyogana, umuthola umntwana out of wedlock. Let's say uthola umntwana out of wedlock. Lo mntwana loyo, you have to leave the child behind.
When you go get married.
And have children in this family. Now they're causing separation between the mother and the child, right? And still this thing is being practiced today. And we have seen and witnessed how kids are deprived of love from a motherly instinct. We have seen how kids are secluded to some of the things. So when it comes to culture and religion, I feel like it's the same thing. We want the same goals, just in different forms, right? So if we can unite the two things and say, okay, I love my African culture, but there are certain things that I will not practice in my African culture. And that, number one, I will not practice that. And when you go to your religion and also say, okay, I hear your religion, Yami, but there are certain things that I will not be aligned with. And these are the reasons why I will not align with this, and create your own idea and sphere. And let me tell you why. I don't practice Islam the way South Arabian people practice Islam. Because we are two different people. They include culture. They include their own culture, and their culture is oppressing women and abusive women towards women, right? And then we have seen it. It's not a secret. We've seen it. We've seen how women are treated in the Arabian countries, right? And then when you go, it's a cultural thing. It's not an Islamic thing, because in the Islam, even when you read the Quran, it doesn't say oppress the women. Instead, it said a woman must be praised, and a woman should be respected, and a woman has equal right to a man, right? But when you look at how they conduct themselves, it's the opposite thing. They don't follow the Quran, but they tend to think they are Muslims, right? I will say, I will not take what they do. I will take what is written in my book that aligns with me as an African child, that goes together with me and goes together with my culture as an African child, and say, you know what, I'm mixing the two, because it has to come together. Your religion shouldn't separate you from who you are, but it should add value to who you are. Not take away from being Umswati, right? My hair is kinky. I have afro. I will never have silky hair. My skin is dark. I will never have white skin. So therefore, my religion should add my value towards me being an African child. And it should praise, or not even just praise, but it should be in a way where I feel comfortable. I feel like when we can learn to say, okay, also culture plays a role in separation. Also culture plays a role in been sort of kind of abusive, so especially towards women. Women are not given as much equal rights, especially according to men and all of that. You know, when we can look at that and also say, there was a brother here who came in and said, if we could look back at what our ancestors practiced African spirituality, we don't know exactly. Yes, religion came years later, right? Yes, religion came in years later. We do not know what our ancestors were worshipping.
Yeah.
As much as people would say they were worshipping the Pasha. As much as we can say the Pasha, when did Upasha started? Right? If we can look at when did Upasha started and who were they acknowledging as the higher power? Because at some point there was a higher power, there is a higher power.
Yes.
Not put God in the same line as our ancestors. And when we say that, we get the most heat to say, oh, your religion is teaching you that. No, because you know why we cannot put God and our ancestors in the same line? Because God is powerful. God created your ancestors. So how can you put someone who created your ancestors in the same line as your ancestors? It just doesn't make sense to me. So therefore I say, I know I have my ancestors. I know my ancestors. My religion tells me I have to go to graveyard and clean and acknowledge them. Right? It doesn't say worship or praise or talk to them. It says go to them. Make sure you visit a tombstone wabo. Make sure you clean, because they are not
because
dead.
they are there as a remembrance.
Yeah, they are not dead. They are just sleeping. They will be waking up or waking up on a day of judgment. So this thing, you see what it's doing. It tells you, go there. I'm giving you permission to go there, clean a tombstone wabo, acknowledge them. I wasn't change a tombstone, you're able tombstone or whatnot. They don't have tombstone. You can put a tombstone. Make sure it is clean. Make sure that you visit them. I do not praise them, because if now I am praising my ancestors, that means I'm meeting Nina. And my ancestors were me, they are equal to God. But God created my ancestors, so how are they equal?
I think what you are saying there is more or less similar to what Khadi was saying when she was saying that in terms of acknowledgement of the ancestors, we are more than willing to acknowledge. When I was saying we should acknowledge them and clean the graves and everything, what Khadi was saying, Khadi, you are still with me,
I'm still with you. I wanted to intervene.
Okay, I think maybe you must just do the intervention yourself. Let me not be the middleman, my love.
Because I think there's a misconception of what we are told and what is. Because remember, if I don't like something, I'm not going to see its beauty. And African spirituality does not say that ancestors are more or they are greater than God. We're saying there's a God that lives. Yes, he's somewhere where we don't know. There's a higher power.
Sure.
But we're saying we're not going to take away the fact that we come from a lineage. And we acknowledge...
Mama Lee, please mute. Guys, when I let you in, just mute, so that you don't disturb the one who is already talking. So you may proceed, Khadi.
Okay, so we're saying we are acknowledging their existence. And I think that the misconception is purposely because they want you to believe that African spirituality aligns God and ancestors in the same ranking. And that's not what it said. So my word to the people would be, go back and find out what it says. The Africanism or African spirituality says we need to worship our ancestors. Go do your own research. You will find that what has been said and what is nowhere equivalent. And I feel like that's what we do. Like, when you look at politics, for an example, they use propaganda in order to discredit the other, the competitor.
Sure.
But is it true? when do we go back and say, my ancestors did 1, 2, and 3? Guys, you can't tell me there's nobody, there's a person who can read into the future, but we can't say because it's in the past, we don't know. There's somebody surely who can tell you that in the past, this is what we did. I know what my grandmothers did. My grandmother told me what her grandmother did. So we can't say because of that, then it becomes null. Let us go reinvestigate and get our own truth and live by it, because most probably what you hear people say is not what is, because that person does not want you to believe in what you have to believe in. So it's very hurtful that Christianity has made us fear so much that we cannot ask the relevant questions to say, what is really going on? It's like, you don't really know, because I grew up in Christianity, I speak with so much fear and conviction, because it's something I'm not accustomed to ask questions about African spirituality and if Christianity is the only way. And also, there is a thing of Islam, Muslim, Christianity.
Yes, which is Habibi.
When you look at it from a greater scheme of things, you see that the fundamentals are the same. They're promoting love, respect, trust, appropriate, all the good things. Why are we so divided and wanting to be right, but not accepting each other's differences and say, look, we're looking to a God that is higher than us. Let us respect our ways of doing it. It's different to the neighbors. It's different to my families. But like our objectives are the same. Why can't we do that? Like Ramabana as black people to say, I don't want that because and Badia ancestors kopela Mudimu and Mudimu Ohio. Bonabari, no. Tina, we are acknowledging where we come from, but we're saying, God, you are God. You know?
So that means all this Africa of ours that we are trying to celebrate, we are really dividing it into a lot of pieces, eh?
Yes, we are dividing, and that's how they conquer. Remember the divide and conquer?
Sure.
It thrives in such situations where we feel like we are better than each other because
we compete with one another now.
My way is more righter than yours, and there's nothing like that.
Can I come in?
Yes, you can come in.
Thank you. So I've been struggling with my phone for a bit there.
Okay.
All right. I want to touch on a few things that is it Miss Habiba? Habiba said, and also give you my mind. There's a very thin line between African culture and African spirituality.
Okay.
In most cases, people think these two are the same, but they are not. There's a very thin line between the two. And let me explain. Now, African culture, and I'll give you examples. African culture says when you get married, this is what must happen. You must pay lobola. Okay, in the Setswana tradition, we know khona le patro, khona le magadi, khona le so on, all these things.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to spirituality, they say, no, you have to go and inform the ancestors, you have to go to the graveside, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In most cases, people think these two are the same, but they're not.
Okay.
To be honest, that's what I found out. They are not, from my observation. You can do, I don't mind African culture. I'm pro-African culture. I support African culture. But I am 100% against this African spirituality.
Okay.
Because it's self above or equal to the maker. That's my problem with it.
Okay.
That's my problem with it. And most people have been lost because you know what? My father was not a traditional healer, but he used to heal people with water and all of that. And he said to me before he died, he said, "Do not go to anyone seeking for help. Go to your maker, pray to your maker and seek for help." Then those are his last words to me. Then I asked myself then what are you saying about these ones who are continuously going to the gravesites, praying to their dead relatives, presenting children at gravesites, thinking that their dead relatives can hear them? So there was a very thin line between the two. You understand?
Sure.
That's what I found out. Because we know that when someone passes on, according to African culture, your uncle has to be the one who receives the body, and your uncle has to be the one who leads the body out of the house. That's culture. That's order. That's culture. We know what even when you get married,
sure.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Your parents don't play a role there. It's your uncle and your auntie.
Sure.
Those are the two people who must play a huge role in getting you married, not your parents.
Sure.
You understand? But in African spirituality, even though they do adopt some African cultural things, but sometimes they end up twisting it. They end up twisting it. That's why we have all these things, people showing broad daylight on TV, and so on and so forth. Now, God has no problem with you being an African. I think that's what people think God is against. He has no problem with you being an African and with you practicing African culture. The only thing that God has a problem with is when now you are trying to substitute him with this African spirituality thing.
Khoitsi, were you here when Khadi was speaking regarding the whole concept behind ancestors? What ancestors are? The ancestors were in the Bible, and the ancestors that are in her lineage, together with Miss Habiba, what she was saying regarding everything that they were saying. Were you with us the whole time?
No. I think that was when my phone gave me problems.
Is it?
Listen, there's no problem. I have ancestors, and I'm a born-again Christian. I have them. And I acknowledge and honor where I come from, my history, my roots. I honor them.
Sure.
You understand? But I don't have to go there and pray to them. I mean, I'm going to a gravesite and pray, and it's not even in the African culture. That's something in dinner, and I'm very passionate about this thing because a lot of people have been lied to. But Yamatuneni, go and pray, things will be okay. For what? If someone, let me tell you something. There's a TV show. I think it's showing on Mojaland.
Yeah.
Someone went to a gravesite and said, "I'm buying this spirit to go do this evil work." When now you go to the gravesite and pray for me. If a witch can go there and do all these things at the gravesite, and then when you're going to get blessings and good luck from there, from the same place, from the same source, is impossible. Do you understand? So God has no problem with us. He knows that we have ancestors. I mean, in the book of Matthew, I think it's chapter 1. It gives you the genealogy.
Yes, the genealogy of Jesus Christ.
It gives you the genealogy of Jesus Christ, which is not a problem. Which is not a problem. That's to show that it shows you that he also comes from somewhere. Now, if we have to look at you also come from somewhere, God has no problem with you knowing what you come from somewhere. The problem is when you try to replace him with his creation. That's the problem. And I think Habib spoke something about that. He said you cannot now, or is it Khadi? You cannot now replace the creation of God. You cannot replace the creator with the creation. It's not possible.
Sure.
And that is where the problem was.
All right.
And that's why we're in this mess. Now, let me address what Habib said. She said our culture tries, in most cases, it sought to separate us through tribalism, which is true.
Sure.
Which is very true. And when you look at, I don't know, she spoke about the Swati culture that if you have a child out of wedlock and you want to get married to someone, you leave the child. I understand the concept behind it because I found myself in that situation. When you get married to someone, let's say you have a child out of wedlock, then you get married to someone else. The reason, and this is the reason that I came up with from my experience. The reason is they do not want their child to be abused somewhere, somehow, by your new partner's family. Okay. In a way. Sure. You understand? So it is trying to protect the child from being abused, even though, yes,
yes, I wanted to get to that as well, to say in other cultures you actually must take the baby with you.
Because once you leave the child, the child might feel like, okay, I'm unloved, sure, I'm rejected, I'm not wanted, right? But when you take the child again, you might expose the child to the negativity and the negative energy from your in-laws, who happens not to be there. The biological
your family of the kid.
Biological in-laws and all of that. You understand? Biological grandparents and all of that. You understand? So you have to look at it from both sides before you make a decision.
And what works for you.
Exactly. Sure. And you have to ask yourself, if I take my son or daughter to my new family, how are they going to treat my child? Okay. Is my child going to grow up in a healthy family? Is my child going to be abused? And you find that the child might be abused, so why bring the child along? Sure. Do you understand? Rather leave the child at home where you know he or she is safe.
Depending on where is the child safer? Is the child safer at home or with you?
Yeah, depending on that. So you really have to make a very informed decision about it.
Okay, so let me get you right. Let me recap on what you are saying, Nekwiti. You are saying that again we are in the spirit of celebrating Africa Day, right? So that means that there's nothing that should stop you from fully celebrating your Africanness just because you believe in something else which has got absolutely nothing to do with African spirituality. So African spirituality and religion and also the tradition of you and the culture of you being an African, these two things have nothing to do with one another. So they should not stop. You should never be stopped from celebrating being an African just because you believe in certain things.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, these two, there's a thin line between the two. Okay. And most people think these two are intertwined. Okay. They're not. It's just that one tends to steal from another. Sure. It's more like a chameleon. It camouflages itself. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. To seem to blend in, but it's not a species of that particular environment. Yeah. But it just blends in. You understand? Yeah. So these two are not the same. African spirituality and culture, totally not the same. Yeah. If you would at least try to study African culture and study African spirituality as well, you'll see there's a very thin line between the two.
Okay. No, I hear you. Star has not spoken.
Can I ask a question?
I beg your pardon?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you please explain to me what is African culture and what is African spirituality? I want to understand and differentiate between the two because, according to me, I think I've been mixing the things and thinking it's one thing.
Yeah, like he said, there's a thin line.
Yeah, exactly. If it's that thin, then obviously you're gonna cross the other line.
Okay. Look, according to me, and this is not the formal definition of it.
Disclaimer, viewers, the speaker's opinions are his, they do not constitute. Yeah, they're yours. So just that disclaimer is good enough. Sure.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's a formal thing, but it's according to my experience.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
African culture it's the way we do things. Just like you have European culture, we have African, the way we live, the way we do things. You understand? We don't heal ourselves with manufactured medicines. We heal ourselves with for a lack of
Sure.
meaning the plants, we heal ourselves with that.
Okay.
And for me, it's a way of life.
Okay.
African culture, it's a way of life. It's how we. How should I put this?
I get it. If you wake up one morning, when maybe as I'm talking, I'm gonna give you at least. I'll help you come back, come and be with us, ne. I get it. When you wake up one morning and we decide I'm a vendor girl, ne. Somebody woke up in the morning and they decided, for us to greet that's a vendor, women must just do like this and sleep on the floor, and it was pleasing to their side. And then other people adopted it, the neighbors adopted it, they liked it, and then it became a vendor culture. I agree. For culture to be there, somebody woke up in the morning and they said, they did this, and they liked it, and everybody followed suit, and now it became like a norm. Just like in the Bible where the family of the tribes. There's one tribe in the Bible where they all wear mangina. Kiki tribe of mang. Where they wear earrings. There's another one that wears earrings. We gotta get the same one that sings. I don't remember very well the 12 tribes. But one of them. So that culture, it's not a thing, Yaori. It's written in black and white to say, okay, this is how we are supposed to do things. It's because one person did it, one person liked it, and then everybody now started doing it, and then now it became a culture of a certain group of people. That's my understanding.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's the way we do things. It's how we live or interact with each other. That's like, for me, African culture. How we interact within ourselves as Africans. Okay. It's like with Europeans. Europeans, they have their own way of life. Jews, they have their own way of life. Okay. They have their culture. I mean, when they get married, they break a glass. You don't understand. Why would you break an expensive glass, my guy? I mean, you understand? And if they'll come to us, they'll be like, why are you buying a person in a form of mahar?
Sure.
Why are you buying a person? You understand? So with African spirituality, you are now tapping into the spiritual realm. And I normally say, I'm using the African spirituality phrase because I feel like a lot of people are more knowledgeable. It's a term that everybody knows more. But when we tap into the spiritual realm, to be honest, there's no such thing as African spirituality.
Sure.
It's spirituality.
Yes.
Either there's good and there's bad. There's good, there's bad. You just need to choose where you are. You understand?
Sure.
So I'm using it loosely because I think everybody...
Because we are focusing on Africa Month, Africa Day, so yeah.
More people are more inclined with it. So that's just it. You're tapping into the spiritual realm. That's why people can use imiti to bath and then they get jobs. Some of them buy a twala, some of them... And they're doing it using African herbs. They're doing it using... Do you understand? So it's not really a matter of... it having, it being African spirit. I don't know how to explain it. Jeez, I really don't know how to explain. I'm trying.
I'm trying to imagine how Habiba is feeling right now. She's probably frustrated. Star, do you think maybe you can help there?
One question for Huizi Mountain.
Yeah, sure.
That I want him to try.
Okay, there's a feedback noise that's coming in. I think it's Eggy. Eggy, please mute. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Let me mute her. Okay, there we go. You may proceed, my love.
Yes, I've got one question for Huizi Mountain. And I wanna quote him on what he said. He said on African spirituality. He said, how can a witch go to the grave and pray, and then I also go to that same grave and pray and expect blessings from that? How is it even possible? So is he saying African spirituality is only for the dead?
It works, ne?
How is it?
Yeah, I think I understand your question.
Yes. And also, if it's when he says that about African spirituality. How is it that in Christianity, even the people who brought Christianity to Africa, there were masters and there were slaves during that era. How is it that masters would pray to the same God and the slaves would also be praying to the same God to say, God, release me from this master, and the master saying, God, give me more slaves?
Yeah. Wow.
Is there no good and bad in Christianity? Is that what he's saying? Because I believe there is good and bad in everything.
Sure. Your question.
But I understand the question is based on Christianity.
Yes, but since the spirituality is not limited to Christianity, you might as well.
Especially with the masters and the slaves part, right?
Yes.
There was a part where me and my husband, we almost had a similar conversation, right? And my husband was like, why do God give people power and money, knowing very well that these people will cause destruction and havoc, right? And then that's what I mentioned the same day, and I went to pray and all of that, and I read the Quran, and there was a verse about it. And then it says in the Quran that some will praise and pray and ask to God, and God shall give it to them. Mara umabanika, it doesn't mean he doesn't know the dirty and the nasty that they have done, right? So whenever you come to God, because God is not selfish and God is not evil, right? God will give you whatever you're asking for. But no, Koguti, amakala wako, you're still gonna pay for them. You're still gonna be questioned for them. You're still gonna go to hell for them. Just because He's blessing you in this life, it doesn't mean in the afterlife He's gonna bless you also. So I feel like when it comes to that, right, they can praise the two people, or the slave and the master can praise to God, right? And God will answer. Even the slave masters, right? It doesn't mean that God doesn't know the evil that they are doing, and it doesn't mean that they're not gonna go unpunished comes to Judgment Day. He's giving it to them because He's not a selfish God.
Oh, okay.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I hear.
You there's a bit of an echo coming in from you, Huiti. I don't know, maybe you have earphones on or what?
No, I don't.
Oh, now I can hear you proper. Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can I come in?
Sure.
There's a verse in our Bible that says, we should not want. It's similar to what Habib said. We should not want what other people have because we don't know. I'm paraphrasing it.
Okay, sure.
Because we don't know how they got their blessings. We should be content and be thankful for what we have, for what God blessed us with. You understand?
Okay.
So we should not. We should not want them, because the minute you say, okay, Namin Funa this, I want a Rolls Royce, I want this, and then someone says, okay, fine, I got this because Ntwele me. Would you go do it? My point, would you go do it? And someone else comes and says, you know what, Namina, God blessed me with this. Literally, like genuinely, God blessed him with this. Where would you go? Do you understand? It boils down to God not messing with your patina. What do you call this in English? Your I forgot the word now. God will never self-will. Yes. Okay. God will never ever mess with your self-will. If you want to go to the gravesites and pray there and ask whoever to bless you and all of that, do it. It's fine. That's you. But God will never mess with that. You will receive whatever you got. But don't say, God, thank you because you gave me this. Did He really give you that? That will be the question. Is He the one who gave you that?
But I feel like what Star was saying regarding this thing, if you as a slave master, because slaves are there even in the Bible. In the Bible we have masters, right? Star is saying that if you pray to God to say, God, give me more slaves, as it is there in the Bible that they're slaves. And then the same slave is saying, God, please release me like the way you released the Israelites from Egypt. Then who is God supposed to be favoring between the slave and the master?
Okay, now we are all waking, right?
Sure. Sure.
We are all waking. I mean, Star says she's in the UAE. I think she said something about that. She's working. Isn't she a slave to his boss?
Yes. So I'm also a slave to this.
My point exactly.
Okay, fine. Okay, now this was my question. This was my question. You said, how can I go and pray go to the graves and pray and say and expect blessings from the grave when someone else can go, and when a witch can also go to the same grave and do whatever the bad and the evil stuff? So what I'm saying is, if it can happen also in Christianity, how is it that bad when it's happening in African spirituality?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because you were like, how is it even possible for me to expect blessings from the grave when a witch goes there? So
I think the question has to be about the source of your blessing.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you
That's
know
the
something?
main thing.
Yes. Do you know anything about God through ethos?
To God through.
Have you only been exposed to Christianity, or do you have some because Khadi has knowledge of both?
I've been exposed a bit to both of them.
Okay.
A bit to both of them, but more to Christianity. But
Okay.
I've also been exposed to the traditional healer side.
I think the reason why a majority of Christians who have never been exposed to African spirituality or any other spirituality are so judgmental is because, remember, if you've been given this as snake, as food, when somebody brings you something else, that's not food. You've been taught that this is food. But what Khadi was saying, that's why I was asking earlier on if you were here when Khadi was speaking, to say when you are open to learning about other people's ways of doing things, then you become a little bit less judgmental, because you understand, whatever it is that they're doing, you don't believe, you don't subscribe to that, but you know there's something that is happening there. So, but a lot of us Christians, I'm one of them, we're like this, I was like this, to a point where I didn't understand other people's ways of doing things. And I had to be open-minded to say, okay, I'm not saying I'm going to absorb that and I'm going to believe in that, but let me sit here and see what exactly is it that they're doing, and how is that working for them? Because in as much as Christianity works for me, I pray together, and I feel like my blessings come from God because I pray for them, and I write things down and say these are my prayer points, and they come to pass. How are they able to survive? How are they able to succeed in everything that they're doing, even though they're doing them in a good way? Because not everybody goes to the graveyard to pray against other people. Some people go for their own things to work out. And when they do work out those things, sometimes even people get more blessed than us as Christians. And you ask yourself, okay, you didn't do anything bad. You just went to the gravesite and you spoke to your ancestors and you say, ancestors, deliver my message to God, and your things are working out. Does it maybe mean that God, as I'm viewing him from this angle, maybe there's God being viewed in another angle by somebody else that maybe I must consider having a look at? Or even if it doesn't mean that I have to consider looking at God in this angle or the top view or the bottom view, but can I acknowledge that the same God that I'm praying to is the same God that somebody who's on the other angles is also praying to the same God? And can I be African enough if I'm only willing to look at God from this angle?
But what does God say about that? I mean, not God. What does Jesus Christ say about it? He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the light.
But then you see, sorry to cut you there, I'm gonna let you finish, but the Jesus Christ that you are talking about, which is the same Jesus Christ that I speak about on a daily basis, it's me looking at God from this angle. So do we discard all the other angles which people are using to look at God? Like Habiba, she's Muslim and she's praying to God and God is answering her. We're speaking to Khadi. Khadi is an African spiritualist and she's passing and things are working out for her. Does that mean that we should not acknowledge the same God? Can you as a Christian only focus on acknowledging God from your angle without saying anybody else who acknowledges God in other angles is not praying to the same God that I'm praying to? Or we are going to say, because Jesus Christ said, there's only one way to the Father and that is through me. That is Jesus Christ saying that. Maybe whoever that Khadi is preaching is praying to says the only way to the Father, if you are looking at me from this angle, is through me. Can we acknowledge the all-rounder of the God that we are praying to, or is it only applicable in one angle?
Well, that's a very good question, honestly.
Okay.
I haven't thought about it to that extent. Honestly, I'll be honest.
Okay.
I haven't thought about it to that extent because I, for one, have been exposed to like I said, to the African spiritualist, né? But just the faith.
Sure.
And I've been exposed to the negative side of it.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
And I'm not saying Khadi you are. Don't misinterpret me. I'm not saying you are.
Sure.
But I've been exposed to the evil side of African spiritualism.
Sure.
And that's why I fail to understand them, even though I know what they're doing. I know some, they'll say we mean well. And I don't judge them at all. But I don't want to really dwell much into it because of the kind of experience that I have with them. And I don't want to tap into that sector too much because of their experience. You understand? So if they view God as in like, okay, I'll pray to my sisters, and my sisters will take the message to God. Good for them. That's them.
Yeah.
And I would say my God says He's the only way
to
God, and there's no other way.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take His word for it, and I'm going to apply it to my life, and it's been working wonders for me. You understand?
Yeah.
So if God says, no, Mina, I'm taking this route, that's what I'm saying. God will never ever mess. That's something about God. He respects your will.
Sure.
Self-will. He'll never mess with it.
Yeah.
If you're saying, I want to take this route, you'll take it. Who am I to judge? If your creator says, I'll respect your will. I'd like you to take this route, but you say, okay, I want B. You'll be like, okay, fine, I'll respect it. Take your B. Leave.
Sure.
And Mina would say, I want A. Okay, take your A and leave. That's it.
On the sorry to cut you there. On the high, let me just say this one thing now. On the good and the bad of both sides, just a couple of weeks down the line, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a live where we were talking about church hurt. And the people who were in that live were not among my brother name. They were Christians who were talking about the bad experiences that they've faced in churches. And usually for you to get to a point where you experience church hurt, that means you were in the forefront. People who were pastors, people who were singers, people who were this and that. You should go hop over on YouTube and watch that video, and maybe it can really open something to say, listen, the good and the bad that we are saying happens in African spirituality. It's also there in Christians. A lot. If you visit psychiatric wards, those people who are there are Christians, some of them, who sleep with Bibles, because as Christians, I even did a video where I was asking to say, as Christians, we have a platform to testify. I'm very much Christian, trust and believe. We have a platform to testify when things are good, because the Bible says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. But we don't have a platform where we talk about the bad things and the challenges that we face, in life. So then we end up, Bona, this thing takes its toll on your mental well-being. So that's where we got to a point where I had a platform where I opened it up the same way that I did today, and we're talking about the reality of church hurt, and people were sharing their experiences. So just to answer you on the issue, Yagori, because you've had bad experiences with people who practice African spirituality, Christian themselves, they've also had bad experiences within the Christian premises because of other people whose intentions were bad, even though they say Jesus, Jesus. Because even the Bible says not all who say Lord, Lord are going to see the kingdom of God.
Amen. Yeah.
I think I cut somebody off there. I don't know who, but please just hop on.
And also to add on the question that Star asked, which I love. I love the way she asked the question. I want to remind us of something. Those who are religious, they know this, ne? Remember when Satan went to God and asked for Job, right?
Yes.
God gave him Job.
Yes.
But said, do not touch what?
His soul.
You can do whatever you want with him, but don't touch. So it gives you clarity that God can actually even give a witch whatever the witches ask for.
Sure.
But do not touch that.
Yeah.
So it's broad, this thing.
Yeah. It's getting deeper and deeper.
It's getting deeper.
Can I come in?
Yes, please, my brother.
I'm touched by that verse. the reason for me when I read that book of Job, before Satan went to ask God for Job, God was very pleased with how Job lived his life.
Yes.
Because he honored God, he honored God's word, and God just continuously blessed him.
Sure.
Then Satan went and said, I want this man. Now God even asked him, before Satan was saying, he said, have you seen my son Job? In which he was what? Pleased with him. And Satan said, no, he's only pleased, he's only happy and praising you because you are blessing him.
Yeah.
Take away everything, he will curse you. And that God was trying to prove to him that, listen, man, you can take away everything, take away everything. He will still be with me. And Satan, and he gave him permission. The reason why he said don't kill him, it is because he wanted to show off his glory at the end. Because if he gave him total control, Satan could have killed him. He could have seen that, okay, you know what, if I don't destroy this man now and kill him now, God would bless him more and render whatever I did useless. So he said, okay, fine, you can touch him, take everything from him, but don't kill him. Don't touch his soul. And his soul also meaning his wife. Because Satan never touched Job's wife. And then after that, what happened? God blessed him twice as much. He gave him twice as much as he had before. So that was to show him that you can touch my child, but when he has me, when all the source of his wealth comes from me, my guy will show you. So it was just to prove a point to him. But I get what you were saying.
So meaning that all of us who are suffering, it could be God trying to prove a point right now.
We shall suffer.
Hey! Ha!
I have a question for Ukhari. The names like so these names sometimes I have a question for Ukhari.
Yes.
Because Ukhari is the one that passes, right?
Yes.
Okay, Khadi. So can I ask, when you pass that, what are the stages in Flambe that you do, and uma upasa, do you receive what you are asking for from your ancestors or Jan? Guys, forget my toddler, she has a tantrum match.
Oh, no problem.
There's a lot going on. She's going through all the emotions all at once.
Hi, we understand. Oh.
So my question is, when you pass, do you start with God or do you involve God in passion wako? And when you do, or if you don't, I don't know how it goes about, right? Do you also go back to say thank you, Mhlambe, to whoever lo phahle kuye and has given you whatever you have asked for? And when you pass, how long does it take for the thing that you have passed for to come true?
Aye, that one is tricky. The last one is a very tricky one because even with our Bible, God says God's timing is right. But it's fine. I'm not going to answer for Khadi. Khadi, answer for yourself.
I'm trying to understand more on the African spirituality.
More Tina Vele, we wait. Those that wait upon the Lord, we shall wait.
Okay, so Uphahla, is not putting forth a request. Ne? For me, this is me and how I practice.
Disclaimer, have views and opinions.
Yes. That's not, I'm not asking for anything from them. Okay. Because my maker and the creator is God himself. If I need anything, I speak to him. What I do to bring forth, to say, okay, listen, or maybe there is something that's going on in the house, so you guys need to see what is going to happen. I'm informing them. For me, I'm informing them.
And in terms of blessings, Khali?
In terms of blessings, I would say, okay, Mudim, can you please, let's just say,
yes.
I'm looking for a house, so that's how my communication is with God, because I understand my blessings are from God.
Okay, so in that case, you don't involve the ancestors when you want blessings?
No, I don't do that.
Okay, when I would say you are not deep in there, you are 1 foot in. We want somebody who is in there. Sure, yes.
So for me, it's to inform, because we have your elders to your house, the people by protect the house.
Okay.
So we consider it or really one. Okay. We might have a communication as a family, but we still need to tell the ones that are not there, so this is what's going to happen. And you guys are not informed. That's how we use it.
Lady LJ, I think Lady LJ, we've been mising you, my dear.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Captain.
Can I say something? Yazi, what Khali said, ne? That's what I'm saying. It's completely different from how how I used to practice it.
Okay.
Do you understand? It's completely different. How we used to do it at home, or let me say how I used to do it. I don't do it anymore. How I used to do it with my family at home is put out request after request. Okay. It's not really much about informing or what. No, it's a request after request after request after request. You understand? So that's why I'm saying that how can I request from someone who has already passed on? Okay. Now, this is me now. See, how can I do that if I have a maker? Okay. You understand?
May I please come in?
Yeah, can I just finish, Lady LG?
Yeah, she's been very patient.
Sure. That's what I'm saying, that how she does it and how she was taught, it's completely different from how I did it and how I was taught. You understand? And for me, it kind of like didn't work. And I always had so many questions about it.
Okay.
It didn't work for me.
I think it's the same thing with Christianity, because if you do not believe, then it shall not come to pass, my brother. Me and you, we speak the same language. It's just that I'm on the line now, hey? Lady IJ, please go ahead. You've been patient, Batum.
Lady LJ.
Is it LJ?
When LJ, don't do it today.
Okay.
Hi, lady.
Hi, everyone. When I initially joined, I was here to what? I wanted to speak to Huit actually.
Okay.
Is it Habiba? She came in and she asked you to explain a bit more what's the difference between
African spirituality and religion and culture. Sorry, yeah.
I wanted to tell you, like, when you try to explain to her,
it sounded like you didn't really have confidence in the answer that you were giving to her. But what I realized is that when you initially started off, like the answer that you gave, like it gave me such a revelation. I was like, oh my goodness, he explained it so well, and I really understood what he was saying. So I just wanted to let you know, because you have confidence in that initial answer that you gave. Because what happened was when you joined the live, Habiba was busy with the little one, so she missed that part where you explained it so well. So I just wanted to say, Uguti, yeah. Because at the end, you sounded like you didn't really know how to explain. You even said, okay, I'm not really sure how to explain it. But you had explained it so well when you joined the live, and Habiba was not around at the time because of the little one that was singing. But then now I've got something else that I think I'd like to add. And please just keep that question that you had at the end, because that's basically what I want to try and answer. So I'm a born-again Christian, and I have been a Christian mostly all my life, and I have gotten exposed to the culture side of spirituality just a bit in my life. And like you, Huitzi, I got introduced to the bad side of it that didn't really make me feel comfortable with my own faith. Okay. But then, I think I do sort of like understand where the communication with us Christians and God lies, and where the communication with those who believe in ancestors lies. Okay. And I'd like to just state before I go on, Uguti, I respect those who believe in ancestors, and I don't always go with everything that we as Christians say as well. So I just like to put those
disclaimer. We appreciate the disclaimer, sis.
Yes. Okay. So there's one thing where I've heard recently, as Christians, we usually say ancestors are demons. Sure. I'm not of that belief. I do not believe that at all. Okay. Yes, yes, they're not. So we as Christians, when we communicate with God, we have God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. When Jesus died, after he died, he ascended to heaven, saying that he's leaving us with the Holy Spirit to be the one that we communicate with for anything that we need, right? We communicate to God the Father. We can only come to the Father through Jesus Christ. And our way is by, like currently, we pray to the Holy Spirit. We can also use the name of Jesus Christ, but the only way that we can come to God is through Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes. Yes.
As far as Christians are concerned, yes. Okay.
Why are you discriminating me, my sister? I'm also one of you.
Sorry, and Habiba as well. Sorry.
Sure,
okay.
I'm just kidding.
I actually wanted to ask a question from the two ladies above. Unless if I can maybe just
throw it.
Sorry?
I'm saying just throw your question.
Okay. What I want to say is I stand to be corrected with what I think. Okay. So, I believe, Uguti, we all have ancestors. My mother who's passed on, my mother who's passed on is my ancestor. My dad who's still living is also my ancestor, even though they're still in this world. But where we differ as Christians, we are not allowed to see to our parents who have passed on to the grave sites or wherever they are, to ask them to help us to communicate with God, or ask them to help us with anything, or to thank them for anything that has become a blessing in our life. Mm-hmm. We are not allowed to communicate with the dead. That's a Christian.
Sure.
And then now, in the African culture, you have your parent who has passed on.
So what the African people believe is that when somebody passes on, you have the body that lies in the grave. The soul then ascends to the spiritual realm. The soul ascends to the spiritual realm. But then now, we're not really sure. So some people believe the soul is there with the body of the person who's passed on. It's there by the grave. So when a person passes on, most people some Africans believe that that person is now closer to God than the person that is in the world. So since they are closer to God, they are able to pass on the message much quicker than the person who is alive. So because of that gap, they believe that the ancestors are able to communicate and pass on messages between God and those who are living.
So they're in the place of the Holy Spirit.
Yes. Thank you, Sissy. So that's where we meet. As Christians, Tina, we all meet in the spiritual realm. Tina, we communicate through the Holy Spirit, but they believe which is the spirit of the dead, which is the soul, which is the part. I think somebody said which is that body is still living. Not the body, I mean. They believe the person who's passed on, they're still living because they're going to be resurrected one day for a judgment. So that person, the soul of that person in the spiritual realm is where us Christians and their ancestors, their souls in the spiritual realm is where our messages meet and they all go to God. So that's why we separate. See, now we pray into the Holy Spirit, our messages go directly to God, but in order for their messages to get to God, the messages has to go through the ancestor in the spiritual realm, and then also the messages that need to come back need to go through the ancestor as well, back to the living. I don't know if I explained it.
Sure. Can I ask you regarding, is there somebody who's saying something?
Oh, it was me.
Sure. You can proceed.
Hello, Rose. Sorry.
Yes. You are saying for Christians, you pray to the Holy Spirit, to God, but through the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And those who believe in African spirituality pray through ancestors to God.
Yes.
What are ancestors? Are they the spirit?
Yes. That's what I said. Yes.
So the ancestors are
No.
spirit.
No, I was trying to explain it
in the belief of those who believe in African spirituality, to say, Bona, they believe that when the body is gone, the spirit is still with us, but the spirit is inclined and it's closer to God.
But for Christians, sorry,
somebody who subscribes to ancestors just give a broad overview. You know, it's very interesting when it comes through from a perspective of a person who's Christian, because it might not fully represent what the people who believe in African spirituality believe.
Sure.
Yes, yeah, that's why I said because I stand to be correct.
I would come in after everyone.
So you are the one who is going to give us a clearer understanding from explanation from somebody who actually practices, right?
I can do that, but after Star, I think she was...
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate you, my brother.
No. So what
I think Star, the point where we differ is in our description of the ancestor. For a Christian, an ancestor is somebody who... Martin, an ancestor, like basically somebody, your parents are your ancestors. But as Christians,
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's the same thing as what Huitiman was saying regarding the genealogy of Jesus Christ, to say for Jesus to be here, there was this person and this person and this person. So same thing applies to you as an individual. For you to be here, there was your parents, their parents, and the works.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But for us Christians, there's a mistake that some people make. They say that, but then when we pray to God, don't you say God of Abraham, so and so and so and so. We don't say our prayers to Abraham and ask Abraham to pass on those messages to God.
Okay. Same as if I say the God of my forefathers, if my forefathers believed in the same God that I believe in, but if they didn't, then I would not acknowledge that. So it's the same thing as what Khali was saying and Habiba was saying regarding acknowledging those who are late, those who have passed away already, to say that you are not praying to them, but you are acknowledging their existence and them being able to contribute to you being here.
Yes.
But isn't that what Christians do?
I beg your pardon?
Isn't that what Christians do?
When they say God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
No, even Jesus himself. Jesus is an ancestor. He was once here on earth. He died. He left earth, just like every other ancestor. And Christians acknowledge Jesus, try to summon his spirit and live through, sort of like be like him, be Christ-like.
Yeah, because I get Christians believe that Jesus Christ is still alive, because I get our Bible says he resurrected after 3 days. So that's a specialized ancestor, that one.
Yeah, but if we look at the definition of ancestor, it says nothing about being dead. It just says that you are a part of like a descendant, or you were once here in the past life.
Yeah.
Which Jesus was once here on earth.
Yeah.
And he left earth because he died, just like every other ancestor.
Sure.
They leave earth because of death.
Yeah.
So I personally, I don't really see a difference.
Okay, I think when you were answering, but we had not heard your input.
Just try to listen to others, Brian, those who explain the African side of it.
Yeah, I think let's give my brother here link one. I always mess up your name, my brother, but please let's give him a chance to speak, and then Brian will come after.
No worries, you can just say link or link star.
Link star, yeah, link star. Please just go take it away, my brother, and then.
Currently silent.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to the believing ancestors, I've actually found it to be twofold.
Okay.
You get those that believe in ancestors but still believe in God, who would say that they are actually not praying to their ancestors, they're just acknowledging them. And they believe that by acknowledging their ancestors who are closer to God, since they're now living in spirit, their prayers can then easily reach God, if I may put it that way, you know. And then you get another school of thought that says that we purely subscribe and we worship our ancestors. Though they do acknowledge the Creator, whom I may say is God, but they would argue that it's different from the Christian God. But that's another topic altogether. Okay? But they do acknowledge God as the Creator. Nevertheless, everybody who believes in ancestors, they believe that there is something that they can gain from acknowledging or even worshipping ancestors. And that is why they do it. That is why they carry the practice. If there was nothing to gain or no benefit from doing so, then we would not be doing it. The benefit could even be in terms of blessings. It could be in terms of prosperity. It could be in terms of protection. It could be in terms of helping certain doors open up for you and so forth. And we also realize that there are such principles also in the Bible, though not spoken about mainly in the mainstream preaching and so forth. We get acquainted with the likes of Jacob, who before leaving earth had to pass down blessings upon his children or their chosen children, and that practice was also carried forth. So we also believe that there are certain blessings that live and lie within our ancestors, that if we align with it and we ask, if need be, for certain things from them, they have the powers and, or rather they have a greater ability of bestowing those things as opposed to us trying to acquire those things ourselves, you know. So we believe that they die physically,
Sure.
but spiritually they live on in another dimension. And sometimes we get acquainted with them through us tapping into spirit or tapping into another particular dimension, even though we are here on earth, either through while we are asleep, through dreaming. That process is actually regarded as astral projecting, whereby we move in our sleep and we tap into another dimension where we can liaise or get in contact with our ancestors, you know. And not something else to note though is that we ourselves, we know that we dream of our ancestors. We don't dream of God or a godlike figure. And I too can put it through to every Christian out here, that who has ever dreamed of God and how does God look like? The only reference we have towards leading to God, especially in the astral world or in the spirit world, is actually our ancestors or the people or other figures that we would dream of, that would pass down messages, that would pass through things that we should do, to avoid 1, 2, 3, pass wisdom and so forth, which are entities or things that help us at the end. So we believe that they live, but however in spirit, in another dimension, we can get acquainted with them. Furthermore, the Bible, I don't think, argues against that, because the Bible would say that Jesus Christ came through and died for everybody, so that he who is alive will continue to live, and who has died will live forever. You know, we believe that if you believe in God, then you will live forever and ever and ever and ever. You shall not die by believing in God or maybe being born again. And the same practice or the same principle is also what we carry, that, you know, our ancestors whom have passed on physically but continue to live spiritually. And because they live spiritually, there are certain things that they can do, and also certain things that they can perform. And that is why we continually try and align with them. I don't know if I should dwell deeper into that or just leave it there. Yeah?
Can I come in after Abib, can I please come in?
Okay.
How do you know that when Jehovah was you astral project, right? How do you know that the entity that you are seeing is not of evil but of good?
Okay, all right. I do agree that within ancestors, and equally so, the same narrative is carried within the Bible. Within the Bible, we are introduced to elements that stand for good, and also an element that stands for bad. You've got God, and then you've got Satan on the other hand, and so forth. We carry the same principle within African spirituality, whereby we do acknowledge that there are some ancestors that represent evil or bad, and there are also others that represent good. However, you see where we differ and where we seem to have more depth in terms of understanding these things is that we understand that even though you can tap into or astral project or even maybe align with a particular evil ancestor of yours, once you acknowledge and you recognize that that ancestor is evil, we have a process of cleansing them, moving them from their evil state and putting them into their pure state, because no one is born evil.
Okay.
Evil is something that we believe we choose. No child is born evil. Everyone is born. If you are from God and you were created by the Creator, then ideally, then you should come through from a very pure, and you should carry that pure essence in your beginning or origin. And therefore, amongst one's life, one can choose to do evil and so forth. And therefore, by doing evil, align with evil, and even when they pass on, carry on the evil deeds or represent evil. But from an African perspective, there are certain processes or rituals that we can perform that would cleanse an evil ancestor and put them in their pure or good state, so that you know that whomever you can tap into or align with within your ancestry is therefore stands for good, and they will bring good upon you.
Can I come in? Oh man, Linster, you man, I have so many questions for you, but I'm just gonna focus on it.
Same here.
Okay.
I think that is why I asked that. There are many answers, but it all depends on how open-minded you are.
Okay.
Obviously, a lot of you might be receiving such info for the very first time. But
I same here. There's some things you are sharing with us today, which is the first for me as well. So
yeah, I according to my knowledge, yes, once you're gone, you're gone.
Okay,
the
gone,
bed
gone,
that you
gone in which part? Do you mean
gone
physically
in
or
a sense where you
spiritually?
pass on.
okay.
Okay, is that
Once you
both
pass
physically
on,
and spiritually?
Let me explain it.
Okay.
Let me put it in a more quote unquote harsh way.
Okay.
Once you're dead, you're dead.
Yes.
Right? Once you depart from this world, then you're gone. Right? The evil that you did in this world, you go with it. Right?
Okay.
Now, how can we cleanse a spirit in the spiritual realm while we're in the physical one?
Okay.
Because the spiritual realm, let me finish first. Because the spiritual realm, our physical realm is determined by the spiritual realm. Whatever happens in our lives now happened before in the spiritual realm, already happened so in the physical realm is just the manifestation of what already happened in the spiritual realm. So what I'm basically trying to say is this: the spiritual realm is higher than the physical realm. How then can we say that we're cleansing a spirit in the spiritual realm while we are, I don't know, it's more like hierarchy.
Yeah,
How can a lesser being cleanse a higher being, so to speak? You understand? It just blew my mind.
Because it goes back to what Lady LJ was saying regarding when we say that when people die, they now move closer to God, then we pass our messages to them, then from them to God. Then when they are evil, even when they're here in between, then how do these same people now, we down here, are able to cleanse them? I think that one also, Lynn, now I'm just like him. I'm very much confused.
Another thing is this. Before you finish, brother, let me just say this. Let me just ask this question. And I wanted to ask this question let me pose it to everyone. The minute, let's say, a rapist, a murderer, an extortionist, all of these people, a pedophile dies, would you still go back to the same person and ask for blessings?
Okay. You see, now you need to then start by because now your question has changed. In fact, let me start with your first question.
Okay.
There are two questions.
Two questions. First question was, how can a person who's living in the physical cleanse a person who's living in the spiritual?
Sure.
If that's my understanding, if I've got it correctly.
Yes.
You touched on by saying that you believe that everybody who passes on their dead, no more, cease to exist.
Sure.
Biblically speaking, we are led to a story of the rich man and Lazarus, who both of them, after passing on, one went to dwell in a place where Abraham lived, and the other went to a different place which apparently was hot.
Yeah, it's the Hades.
Fiery.
Mm-hmm.
Hades, okay. And the one who was in a fiery place then looked up, saw saw Lazarus resting upon Abraham's
bosom.
chest.
Yeah.
Bosom.
Don't worry, I'm here. Don't worry, I'll plug you, my brother. Don't worry.
No, 100%.
Sure.
But not to dwell much into the story. I
Sure.
think that indicates that when we leave this world, we continue to exist in a different form. And hence we believe that by believing in Jesus Christ and being born again, we shall die no more.
Yeah.
Yes, we will die physically, but spiritually we will live on. Now, here is to a person that passes on, but you find that just before they passed on, they had aligned with the dark forces or evil, if I may put it that way. When they leave this world, they carry together everything that they stood for in this world. What I mean by that, and to try and use the biblical connotation to try and explain it, the only way that you can attain being born again and also guarantee going to heaven is that within this physical world you need to be born again. And mind you are born again in the physical world while living here on earth. You don't wait to be born again after passing earth. So this just indicates that or proves that our actions, we carry them through or maybe open up the way as to where we go. Although we believe that we carry our actions through, that if you stand for evil here on this earth, when you pass on, you will also stand for evil wherever you are going.
Okay.
Now, we are then able to cleanse a spirit through a spiritual orientated ritual, whereby you can cleanse a spirit that is standing for evil, and if the ritual is performed correctly, ultimately that spirit will now stand for good. You will now cleanse fully that spirit, rid the spirit or that soul rather, in fact let me not say spirit but rather soul, rid the soul of all its evil so that it becomes pure again. The same process, there is a similar process within a Christian narrative, although performed by other Christian groups, where they would say pray for your ancestors that used to do evil on earth, so that they may, or grace may even fall upon them, that they too can rest. Because wherever they are not resting. So it is a similar connotation, although we perform it from an African perspective and not through prayer. We perform it through a particular Bantu ritual, and we don't perform it through prayer. But however, the definition and the connotation, it's the same. You'll find that you have a great grandfather who was a terrorist, who used to terrorize everybody, who was a rapist and used to do all manner of evil things. And when you sleep, you dream of him. You go to your pastor will say, come on, let us dwell in prayer.
In Christianity, when links to my brother, we break generational curses. I think it's that.
And remember, those what we refer to as generational curses are now things that we are inheriting spiritual.
So this is the part where I had to cut the video to have part 1 and part 2 because it was getting heated, but now it was way too long. So if you would like to hear more on this topic, you are more than welcome to hop over to part 2. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.